This is called It Will End With a Sob. It'll end with a sob, with a rattle, with a crack, with a whisper, with a rustle, with a never looking back. With a rattle, with a crack, as the last back breaks, with a never looking back, with a heart that cannot ache. As the last back breaks, as the last creature chokes, with a heart that cannot ache, in the sulphur and the smoke. As the last creature chokes, with a whisper, with a rustle.
A new book called The Smell of Purple, specially created for the New Delhi Poetry Festival. I'm going to read you a poem called, title poem, called The Smell of Purple. I suddenly realised that my daughter had the gift of synesthesia, which the senses cross, and you can see colours and hear colours, and the famous Finnish composer Sibelius saw colours, or saw musical notes as colours. And when they said, "What colour do you want your stove painted, Mr. Sibelius?" he said, "Oh, C major, C major." So, it's a bit like that. The smell of purple. She says she can smell yellow. She says she can smell blue, despite not being able to spell either colour. Yellow smells the same as blue, like a wet kitty drying by the fire. Red smells like mummy when she kisses. Her kisses smell different when she kisses you. Then she smells like flames with little orange tips. Purple is my favourite smell. It smells just like a magic spell. I kiss her goodnight like violet, only lighter, with little flecks of purple scattered here and there. Thank you. The title of this poem is in Old English. It's called How it Scale Ik Singen, Sing Me From Shaft. So, cabman in Middle Ages goes to the feast. It's rather like this. You're expected to recite, sing, do something for your feast. And he doesn't know what to do, so he runs away from the feast, and an angel comes down, and Cadman says to him, "What shall I sing?" And the angel tells him, "Sing me creation. How it scale ik singen, sing me from shaft." And she sang to him, and she sang of him. She sang of the love she had created for them. She used birds for words and the rain that had fallen. She used flowers and tears and interwove them. She used sighs and hours and the loneliness within them. She used moonlight and pain and what remained when she was far from him. She sang of a love that had dreamed of being and hadn't yet awoken. She sang of herself and called to him. And she sang of him and she sang to him. She sang of the love that belonged to them. She sealed it with tears and the fears of her heart breaking. She sang him creation. Thank you.
The comfort of knowing that you hear me in my madness is comforting indeed. Yet, my thirst knows that you are more than furlongs away from arm's reach. And then, there are always these seas, these wide, deep gulfs that an aching heart can never bridge. Another very short one. Yesterday it was when I had heaved and puffed and eventually reached the horizon. Without bothering to breach it, after I had reached it, I nailed a marker there and then returned. Only to find that today you have moved the horizon further away. The pegged marker I had painted in red is now just a tiny speck. A distant milestone, and it seems a bit of the bearings I had trudged. You took the horizon further away, and I must start again from midway with a course correction. Thank you. Hey. Now we have Yasin.
Reasons for it. She was on a train. She was asking for it. She was on a bus. She was asking for it. She was walking past. She was asking for it. She was dressed up class. She was asking for it. Her clothes were cheap. She was asking for it. She looked away. She was asking for it. She looked at us. She was asking for it. She didn't see us. She was asking for it. She smiled too much. She was asking for it. She frowned too much. She was asking for it. Her face was blank. She was asking for it. She was pretty or plain. She was rich or poor. She was fat or thin. She was old or young. She was female. We were worse than animals. And she was asking for it. I hope this one is possible to understand. It's called Tattoos, and it's kind of personal. It's a life, really. It's not my life. In the 60s, it was CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, badge of belonging, them and us. She saw the solemn pie chart as an anxious face. She etched it on her shoulder and marched at Greenham Common against the Americans. In the 70s, she fell in love. A crimson heart stretched across her chest. No name. Its counterpart, torn, seeping tears of blood, came later. When she married, they said it was for money. The 80s brought a flush of dollar signs, fistfuls of cards, sterling symbols rearing like vipers up her forearms, on each ankle chains of harsh blue ink. Her wedding ring covered the Celtic knot, encircling one finger. L-O-V-E defined her other knuckles. When the marriage failed, across her belly she created the Titanic, broken, half submerged in the ice of their last years together. But the century turned, and champagne bottles on her thighs flexed and sparkled. Now travel was her comfort. Across her back, an ink tsunami threw islands, palm trees, parrots, flowers, entwined with the initials of new loves. At last, she got religion. A crucifix was hammered on the surface of the temple that was her body. Its arms invaded hers. Her spine stiffened with stylized wood grain, and blood ran from the nails upon her feet. Head shaven, she accommodated the Godhead's suffering. The crown of thorns encircled both their brows. At last, the canvas of her body was complete.
Beautiful.
Good.